Hello and welcome to my channel today, Boo Snakes and More. Today we're going to be talking about the Senate. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And for more videos like this, watch my other house channel, A&A Snakes and Stuff. And my youngest son's channel, Henny's Toys and Games. On my oldest son's channel, Little Chris 10. Let's dive into the video. After two previous unsuccessful attempts, the Senate moved Thursday toward limiting President Trump's availability to further strike Venezuela as the U.S. leader continues to take unlethal, unilateral action against the South American country. The Senate voted 52 to 47 to advise a war powers resolution, days after the U.S. captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife in a nighttime raid that came not only as a surprise to the former president, but also to Congress. 5 Republicans joined all Democrats in support of the measure. Todd Young of Indiana, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Josh Haley of Missouri. Another procedural vote and debate on the resolution is expected next week. Mr. Trump had long teased land strikes against Venezuela and a months-long military campaign against alleged drug smuggling boats at sea that has killed more than 100 people. Mr. Trump has not ruled out additional military action. He has said that the U.S. will run the country for the time being and control its oil sales after Saturday's strikes, which were carried out as part of a daring operation to capture Maduro and bring him to the U.S. to face charges. Senator Tom Kean of Virginia, Democrat, introduced his latest resolution in early December after the revelation that the U.S. killed 2 people who survived the initial blast of a September 2nd strike in the Caribbean Sea. Kean's measure would require the removal of United States armed forces from hostiles within or against Venezuela that have not been authorized by Congress. The indication from the administration is that this is not a few days or a few weeks. It's likely a few years of U.S. occupation and involvement in this country, Kean said Wednesday on the Senate floor. This is not an arrest warrant. This is far bigger than that.
Sausage and pepperoni on a pizza. Typical.
Trump administration officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, held briefings for top lawmakers on Tuesday on last weekend's actions in the region. They had similar briefings for all members of Congress on Wednesday. Democrats left those briefings dissatisfied with the answers they received about what comes next. The boat strikes, the Maduro seizure and removal to the U.S. have alarmed legal experts and lawmakers, with some accusing the Trump administration of committing war crimes, lying about the intentions for regime change, and leading the U.S. into a war without congressional authorization. I think bombing a capital and removing the head of state is by all definitions war, Paul, the lone Republican correspondent of the resolution said Tuesday. Members of the Trump administration, including the president, have muddied the legal arrangements by claiming that the operation to capture Maduro was a law enforcement operation that didn't require sign-off from Congress. Mr. Trump and other officials also say the U.S. is now in charge of Venezuela. Republicans who voted to advance the resolution cited Mr. Trump's comments about running Venezuela and the potential for U.S. forces to be deployed there as reasons for the measure gaining their support. I believe invoking the War Powers Act at this moment is necessary, given the President's comments about the possibility of boots on the ground and a sustained engagement running Venezuela, with which I do not agree, Collins said in a statement. A drawn out campaign in Venezuela involving the American military, even if unintended, would be the opposite of President Trump's goal of ending foreign engagements, Young said in a statement. Howley told reporters after the vote, I just think if we're going to put troops in there for hostiles, we're going to have to get congressional approval. Many Republicans have defended the Trump administration's failure to seek approval from Congress, arguing the actions are well within the president's congressional authority and limited in scope. This is not a regimen change. This is demand for change of behavior by a regimen, House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Louisiana Republican, said after Monday's classified briefing. We don't expect troops on the ground. Jefferson added Wednesday the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. There's no dispute about that, of course, but we are not in a war in Venezuela. Speaking on the Senate floor ahead of the vote, Republican Senator Jim Rush of Idaho called the resolution nonsense and said the effort of this is to slap the President of the United States in the face. That is the only effect that the vote can have. It can have no practical effect because it's trying to stop something that isn't going on, Rush said. Boat strikes sanctionized. In the weeks before Madonna's capture, Mr. Trump dialed up his president's campaign season 2 sanctioned tankers that were carrying oil from Venezuela. On Wednesday, the U.S. carried out operations to seize 2 more vessels linked to Venezuela. Republican Senate Thorin Tillis of North Carolina, who has voted against the War Powers resolutions, suggested that if the U.S. can seize a giant oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, it could also seize smaller boats allegedly carrying drugs. I would take note, if we can take a big ship like this, we may be able to take a few boats too, without blowing them out of the water, he told reporters last month. But that's a decision they have to make on the ground, I guess, based on the threat level. Paul, who had been a fierce critic of the strikes and has decried the lack of due process, shared a letter he received from the U.S. Coast Guard that said dozens of suspected drug smuggling vessels, indicated by the military breach, possessed no illegal drugs. In total, 212 inductions occurred between September 1st, 2024 and October 7th, 2025. According to the letter, of those, 41 boats had no illicit contraband on board when inducted, according to the Coast Guard.
Okay, I want to show the books.
Oh.
You can.
The letter also provided details of interceptions in the Caribbean Sea. Of the 212 total vessels indicated during this period, 69 vessels were indicted in the Caribbean Sea by Coast Guard Surface Assistance, operating under Coast Guard Law Enforcement Authority. The letter continued, of the 69 inductions, 14 had no illicit contraband on board when induction. 11 of those 14 vessels without contraband did not appear to commit any federal criminal offense. Of the 69 Caribbean inductions, 14 vessels were indicted off the coast of Venezuela. 3 of the 14 vessels indicted near Venezuela had no illicit contraband on board when indicted, but one of the 3 violated other U.S. federal crime statutes. To justify the strikes, the Trump administration has said the U.S. is in a non-international armed conflict with drug cartels it has designated as terrorist organizations. The drugs smuggled by these cartels kill tens of thousands of Americans each year and consort an armored attack against U.S. citizens, according to the White House. But the opinion from the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel justifying the strikes remains classified. Lawmakers critical of the military action argue that nationalization in the upper opinion is inadequate for the situation and have determined that it be made public. In December, Mr. Trump signed an executive order designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, perhaps seeking to bolster the justification for military action around Venezuela. Fentanyl was not mentioned in the indictment against Mondano. Thank you for watching this video and peace out till the next one.